I'm Adrian, the Cruise and Travel Guy. For those of you that have already subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. And if you haven't done so yet, please do. For me, it had been a long 841 days between cruises. My last one before the pandemic was a 3-night cruise on Voyager of the Seas in February 2020. I know that for some of you it's been a lot longer than that, but finally cruising is back in Australia and our region continues to open up to cruising, setting the scene for a spectacularly busy summer season ahead. Anyone familiar with my channel will know that I've recently returned from 2 cruises on board Pacific Explorer. At the time, she was the only ship sailing in Australia. She has since been joined by Coral Princess, and over the coming months, a series of ships from different brands will join them both. As the cruise resumption continues to gather steam, I wanted to provide you with a review of my experience on P&O and the Pacific Explorer so that you can have an idea of what to expect when you're on board, but also to allow me to review the P&O Australia product. If you're after a more detailed video about the logistics of cruising in a post-pandemic world, I have already made a video that covers everything you need to know, which you can watch by clicking the link in the description below or the card above. Let's start with boarding. Overall, the process is very similar to that in the past. The biggest difference with P&O is now the reliance on apps, specifically 2 of them. Previously, cruisers would receive a paper health questionnaire at the terminal. That would need to be completed to ensure that you were fit and healthy to cruise. Now though, that information along with your vaccination status is recorded in the Verifly app. I'm quite good with tech, but I did have some issues with Verifly early on. When I had first preloaded the cruise into the Verifly app, everything was great. The day before the departure, I went in to upload my negative test result and it wouldn't accept that result. I did some troubleshooting and fiddling around and ended up adding the booking again as an entirely new booking into Verifly, re-uploading my vaccination certificate, and then it allowed me to upload my negative test result. So that's something to keep in mind if you have a similar experience. I have seen some of you on social media report that you haven't had the easiest time with Verifly. I suspect that these were early on teething issues that are hopefully resolved by now. Perhaps some of you can let me know in the comments below, but I do believe that that is something that should be smoothed out soon. Also, don't forget that if you don't like the apps or you're not very familiar with using them, you can provide paper copies of your vaccination certificate at check-in and attest in person to your negative test result. At the terminal, I chose to use the P&O digital boarding pass available in their brand new app. Whilst it was straightforward to open the app and access the boarding pass, I found that especially at that time early on, the app had a tendency to crash at very inopportune times. Upon relaunching the app, I found that I would have to unlock it sometimes with Face ID, which meant pulling down my face mask in the terminal, which is a no-no, but I had no choice. I couldn't remember my password with people behind me waiting to check in and go through boarding. So I did what I had to do. Hopefully that is something that would be fixed by now if it isn't already. I do know that P&O are continuing to expand the functionality of the app and work on it. The original app developer was on board the test cruise, so I know that they're taking this feedback on board, and I hope it's something that has been resolved by now and the app is more stable and is better to use than ever. One of the questions I ask people before they join my private Facebook group is what they like most about cruising. And if I had $1 for every time someone said food or dining, I'd have $382. In all seriousness, no, food is always one of the main focal points of any cruise, and on Pacific Explorer, if I could summarize it, it would be a bit of a mixed bag. One of the highlights, at least conceptually, is the pantry. The pantry is P&O's take on the classic cruise ship buffet. Instead of self-serve stations, there are food court style storefronts, and each one is dedicated to a different cuisine. The friendly faces behind the counters serve you, and of course it's all you can eat as you'd expect. I loved the look and the layout of the pantry, but personally thought that the variety of food was lacking. There were some tasty finds like the fish and chips, which was deliciously crispy and flaky on one day, but a bit of a soggy miss on another. I actually really enjoyed the sandwiches and rolls that were pre-made and available to pick up yourself, especially at lunchtime. I found these were consistently good and offered a bit of a lighter lunchtime option anyway. The pantry is open for breakfast, lunch and dinner and closes at about 9:30 p.m. This presents a bit of a problem and was one of the downsides of dining on board Pacific Explorer, where on Princess, for example, you'll find complimentary room service available 24/7 24/7, or complimentary food options at the International Cafe available 24/7. On P&O after dark, you were relegated to ordering room service and paying for it, or you had the option of going to 400 Gradi to order a takeaway pizza, which ran about $11 to $15 depending on what item you chose. Explorer also has 3 complimentary a la carte restaurants: the Waterfront, Angelo's Italian, and Dragon Lady. Each restaurant has a unique personality and ambience and could be booked for dinner each night. They all fill up quickly, so one of my tips is to jump onto the ship's Wi-Fi as soon as you board and use the new P&O app to put your bookings in. You can also go down to the Dragon Lady and Angelo's restaurant entrance and you'll be directed to one of the lovely crew members who will help you book in your dining options for your cruise. I had dinner in all 3 restaurants and I found Angelo's to have the most consistently delicious food. Although the menus don't change, having the choice of several dining venues means you can pick from a range of different food at each, giving you a sense of variety. I had dinner one time in Dragon Lady and just found overall that the food was on the bland side. Nothing was awful, but the menu sounded better than what I got to taste. I've seen feedback from other passengers who've cruised more recently, and it does seem that it might have improved, so I'd be willing to give it another shot on a future cruise. It's also my favorite dining venue in terms of appearance. It's so dark and moody. The Waterfront has a very casual feel about it, and especially at lunchtime, kind of reminded me of a modern Aussie pub. With pork belly, banh mi, fried chicken burgers, and club sandwiches available for lunch, there was a good range of fresh and filling meals available. For dinner, I tried the Waterfront only once, and what I ordered was really tasty. However, I've read very mixed reviews about that, and I think some of the dishes are just more successful than others. There are, of course, specialty dining options to be enjoyed. 400 Gradi, which I mentioned earlier, is the pizza restaurant. Shell and Bones, which takes over one half of the pantry at night and offers a range of seafood and meats, and 2 options by celebrity chef Luke Mangan. Luke's used to occupy the open deck space above the pool, but before the pandemic was enclosed, now it offers one of the best dining experiences on board. From late morning until late afternoon, there's a range of casual eats available, including burgers, hot dogs, and fries, but all are leaps and bounds ahead of complimentary options on competing cruise lines. In my opinion, of course. Yes, you do have to pay for them, but it's worth it, even as a treat. At night, the venue converts to a fine dining restaurant with the open kitchen really adding to the flair. The food here is just sensational. It was by far my favorite meal on board. From entree to dessert, there was not one miss. I constantly heard from people on board saying the same, and based on the bookings or lack of availability, it seems to be proving very popular with everyone. Luke's second venue on board occupies a small dining room within the Waterfront, essentially offering a chef's table experience. A multi-course degustation with paired wines sets you back well over $100 per head, but based on the feedback of people that did go, they couldn't recommend it enough. Might be the perfect place for a special occasion. Food is such a central feature of cruising that of course it attracts the most feedback and critiquing of any part of the cruise experience. Overall, I just found the dining to have a bit of a split personality. Some of the best food I've ever eaten on a cruise was available at a cost, but some of the included options were lacking in one way or another, whether that was taste, variety, or availability. The biggest issue that was raised by cruisers when I was on board was just the lack of dining options after hours. I have to say though, as an aside, I've never had such consistently well-poached eggs in my life. My local cafe doesn't even have anything on P&O Chefs. While P&O do offer drinks packages, those that include alcohol are only available on cruises of 7 nights or longer. Non-alcoholic soft drink or refreshment packages are available on all cruises. I didn't purchase any of the drinks packages. Let's just say though that 841 days between cruises leads to a very expensive day one. For a cruise, drink prices did seem a little on the high side. Expect to pay what you would pay at a land-based bar or restaurant, and I think the days of cheap alcohol on cruises is long gone. And although I don't have a dog in this fight personally, I can tell you that much to the dismay of many, P&O now offers cola products by Pepsi and not Coke. Next to food, entertainment and onboard activities is one of the most important things for the cruise experience. P&O has always excelled in this area, and this time it was no different. The entertainment crew on board are really top notch. From cruise director Julie McEwen down, the team that leads the events are really personable and fun. A typical day offered a range of activities from lawn bowls to dance classes, bingo, trivia, and game shows. As well, the big screen on the pool deck was set up to play movies and even the rugby league. There's also a video game arcade to occupy the kids, and parents are able to set a spending limit, which is a handy feature. The ship has several pools and hot tubs, with some reserved for adults only in the aft located Oasis. There were a number of theatrical productions and stand-up comedy shows as well, and these were all complimentary. Additionally, P&O offers its adults-only show called The Purple Rabbit. The cost of admission on our cruise was $20 per person, and the show was a vibrant spectacle with a variety of performances from comedy to dance and beatboxing to magic. It's not common for cruise lines to charge extra for a show, but it was definitely a unique event, and based on the number of people that I saw lining up to get in, it was very popular. P&O also hold a number of themed nights throughout most cruises, the most famous being Bianco Night, which is, as the name suggests, a ship-wide white party. The Gatsby night is all about donning your Prohibition-era best. One of my favorite things to enjoy of an evening was just the live music that was on around the ship, and it's one of my favorite parts about cruising as well. Finishing dinner and walking out into the atrium and basically stumbling across a pianist. You can stand, sit, and just enjoy the music before you decide what to do next. Apart from the theatre and Black Circus, the Blue Room, the Explorer Hotel, and the casino are the main venues after dark. The Blue Room seems to go latest, with the resident DJ kicking things off around midnight for the night owls. P&O also offer a few options for the adrenaline junkies among us, including the Flying Fox, rock climbing, walk the plank, laser shooting, and more. These activities do attract a fee and can be pre-booked pre-cruise or once you're on board. You can also pay for an individual or family pass that gives you better value and allows you to repeat the activities that you enjoyed most. I did not partake. It's difficult to be bored on any cruise, but P&O definitely do a fantastic job of bringing the ship to life. There's really no getting around the fact that Pacific Explorer is an older ship, having started life as the Dawn Princess in the late 90s. But you would be hard-pressed to pick her age if you only looked at her public spaces. These have all been beautifully renovated and updated by P&O with plush furnishings, and they really set a modern and luxurious tone around the ship. In terms of her accommodation, where soft furnishings like carpeting, bedspreads and pillows and curtains have all been updated, you can tell her age by the general size of the rooms, the bathrooms, and the other hard fixtures. I had the chance to stay in both a balcony cabin and a suite, and I have tours of both available on my channel. Pacific Explorer's internal, ocean view, and balcony cabins are definitely on the smaller side when compared to more modern ships. I found the layout of the balcony room to be rather cramped and a little short on storage. The balcony itself is set inside the hull of the ship, and while there's more protection from the elements, there is a downside that the view is a little restricted, and where on more modern ships you'll find glass railings, on Pacific Explorer these are metal. The balcony door was hard to slide, and I can only imagine it hadn't seen a lot of use over the past couple of years, so I'm sure that didn't help. The bedding was comfortable, which is a definite plus. The bathroom, on the other hand, was very compact, which is fairly common when it comes to cruise ship staterooms, but the shower curtain makes the shower, which is actually a decent size, feel smaller than it is, as it invariably gets sucked in towards you. The wardrobe was on the smaller side too, though it would be okay for a couple of people to share for a shorter cruise. I don't believe the room is terrible by any means, it's just starting to show its age in some places where the rest of the ship kind of doesn't seem that old to me. Still, it's a comfortable place to rest between enjoying the cruise, and a balcony is always a bonus. On my second cruise I chose a suite, which on Explorer is located aft overlooking the ship's wake. The room was a huge step up in size, of course, but I also found the fittings and finishes to be in quite good condition, especially considering the age of the ship. Although there's a slightly dated appearance, I found everything to be really nicely maintained, and the space was just incredible. My favorite feature being the two-way bathroom with separate powder room, and of course the large balcony with that wake view. It's 2022, so it wouldn't be a cruise review video without mentioning masks. P&O's official policy is that masks must be worn on board and indoors where social distancing can't be observed, or at all times in the Black Circus and the Marquee Theatre. Though there are sip and cover signs located throughout the ship, indicating that one would remove their mask to enjoy a drink and then replace it, there was no enforcement of this, as it was essentially overwritten by the social distancing rule. Sitting in your own group, there was no need to wear a mask. I would say that in the case of both cruises, Most people were extra conscious about mask wearing on day one, and as the cruises continued, that consciousness seemed to drop off a little bit. Personally, apart from the show lounges, I would always wear one in the lifts and in places like the shops that were just a little bit more cramped and where social distancing couldn't be properly observed. Ultimately, I didn't find that it negatively impacted my cruise experience. The brand new P&O app was released in May, and it comes with a whole range of new functionality that's great for the cruise line's continued expansion in this space. Though it's not perfect, my understanding is that it will continue to be developed and enhanced over time. For my 2 cruises, I generally use the app to keep track of my onboard spending and check the daily program. I also used it to make my dining reservations, as I talked about earlier. I like that you could add events from the daily program into your personal calendar so you could keep track of what you wanted to do. You could also check the calendar for your own dining reservations so you could remind yourself about where you had booked to go for dinner that night. Though there was also a cruise card embedded in the app, I just found it easier to use the physical card. Internet access on board was vastly improved from past cruise experiences. Though it still left a lot to be desired compared to internet based on land, I found that the social talk plan was great for Wi-Fi voice calls and uploading photos and sending messages or emails. I found the connection to also be very stable across the ship as well. Where things began to suffer though was in the top tier streaming internet option. Though it promised streaming quality internet, I found the reality to be a little bit different. I found that videos would buffer a lot and uploads to social media would usually fail. Overall though, the internet worked quite well for a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, and it was definitely an improvement over the previous internet available on P&O. I think that if you are looking to use it for mostly messages and perhaps uploading a photo or two or Wi-Fi voice calling, then you should definitely opt for the social talk plan. Overall, I had a fantastic time on my first 2 cruises on board Pacific Explorer, especially being after that long wait in between. From the design and amenity of her public spaces to all of the entertainment and dining options, it would be very difficult to have a bad time on board. Whilst food is very subjective, I did find the specialty options to be some of the best quality food that I had ever eaten on a cruise, and I highly recommend them all. Some of the complimentary options, however, were a bit of a mixed bag, as I explained earlier, but still it would be impossible to starve on board. Having said that, and based on comments that I heard throughout the cruise, I think that one area that P&O can improve on is in offering some kind of a late night complimentary food option like many competitor cruise lines. In essence though, all of this just makes me even more excited for the arrival of Pacific Encounter and Pacific Adventure, which will be here very, very soon. Let me know your thoughts about P&O and the Pacific Explorer in the comments below. If you are looking to book a cruise on Explorer, Encounter or Adventure, you can head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguy.com.au, and you can also give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram at The Cruise and Travel Guy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Previously, where guests would receive a health questionnaire at the terminal As the cruise resumption continues to gather steam, I wanted to provide you with my thoughts and feedback as the cruise resumption. One of the questions I ask people before they join my while P&O do offer drinks packages, expect. Oh no. Oh no, I wasn't recording with my microphone. 11 minutes in.